Hello! Welcome to this week's video 8 on edible estates. So this week we're going to do all about seed saving, the what, the why and the how. We're going to start with some theory and we're going to move that into some practical examples.
Seed saving was a common practice in homes and communities in Ireland, especially in rural Ireland. And many of you may have family members who remember or practice them still. Many others, especially those of us who grew up in more urban setting, may have never come across seed saving from our families, and this really important skill is at risk of being lost. Learning how to save your own seed, it not only saves you money, it also helps us to retain diversity in the seeds, grow plants that are better adapted to our particular needs and environments, your particular bed, your particular conditions, and then also to have more control over the food that we, in the end put into our bodies and into our families. So where do the seeds come from? So it's really important to understand a little bit about the background of seeds. Nowadays, most of the seeds we buy in the shop are commercially produced and designed to suit large-scale growers. So they will have been selected or engineered for specific commercial features, like having all of your carrots coming out the same, having a uniform shape. They want to make sure that these plants travel well and can stay on the supermarket shelf for long periods of time. And another feature that they select for is so that they all mature at exactly the same time. So this would allow large-scale producers to mechanically harvest all in one go. However, as a home grower, we might not want these features in our plants, and we're quite rightly so more interested in the taste, the nutritional value, and maybe being able to grow them on a more spaced out basis. Problematically as well, these commercially produced seeds are often harvested in ways that are damaging to the planet. The seed trade has become one of the most threatening industries to food security worldwide, with major seed producers producing and patenting almost 70% of the world's seeds. There's something like 4 of the largest seed companies control over 60% of the world's seed bank. So what does this mean? It means that local seed banks and small-scale farmers may face legal action for saving their own seeds or attempting to ensure a regular food supply for their communities, and that's a really risky place for us to be in as a species. Seed saving and giving thought to where you buy your seeds can be a political act to support sustainable eating. So buying from local small-scale producers like Irish Seed Savers, Brown Envelope Seeds or Little Green Growers, this can be a really good alternative and something we would really encourage. So some important things that we need to know about the seeds that we're using if we want to seed save from. We've just broken it down into 2 seed types to make it more manageable. So the first is, if your seed, and on your seed package you will see it might say something like F1 or a hybrid. If your seed is an F1 variety or a hybrid, this implies that there's been a crossing of 2 different varieties, creating a plant that has traits of each parent. And it will also show what is known as hybrid vigor. So it's a mixture of qualities that will enable it to grow more successfully than both its parents. This is really good commercial. A lot of the commercial plants are F1 hybrid varieties because they can ensure that they will grow really, really well. Hybridization occurs naturally as well in the wild, but in the context of the seed trade, the process involves deliberately narrowing the genetic makeup of each of the 2 varieties. So it's a bit technical, but it's about taking particular characteristics from them. The problem for us though is if we wanted to seed save from an F1 variety, we wouldn't be guaranteed that we're going to create the same plant that is there, because it's a mixture of 2 parents as opposed to 1 plant. So we don't recommend, you can try it if you wish, but we don't recommend trying to seed save from anything that has come from an F1 or a hybrid plant. As home growers, we should as much as possible grow what they call open pollinated varieties. And these are much more adapted to the home garden and a small farm. An open pollinated plant means that the plants are pollinated naturally by birds, insects, wind, or even human hands within the garden setting. So these are much better suited for seed saving. They're more adaptable. They're in general they're better for the environment as well. They support biodiversity. All of the plants and seeds that we provided for you for this Edible Estates programme were open pollinated, and they were also organic. And so we can provide a list of Irish seed producers at the end of this video that we'd recommend you use if you decide to go down this route in the future.
So two of the easiest plants to learn how to seed save on are peas and beans. And so we're going to show you now with the ones that we planted in the bed. Basically what you need to do is just leave your plant to ripen, leave the peas to ripen, so resist eating those sweet peas, and we'll just let them dry out. You can see that these ones are lovely and dry here on the pod, and you can check them. You can open them up and see are they fully dry. The way you test is you dig your nail into the side of the pea, and if it doesn't leave a mark, that leaves a little bit of a mark. So that leaves a bit of a mark, so I'll leave them to dry just a little bit more before putting them into a dry container and saving them for next year. So simple. Each one of those is another pea plant. So it'll be a similar thing with your beans, and you can do it with the broad beans or with runner beans or any other kind of beans you might have been sampling yourself. All of ours are still a little bit too fresh. They haven't fully ripened, so you can leave them either on the pod to dry out, which I recommend is the easiest thing, or else you could hang them up inside until they dry. Another really easy plant to practice seed saving on is a pumpkin. So you know yourselves, as you're scraping out the inside of a pumpkin or a squash, you get the seeds. So just taking the time to allow those seeds to dry. These are some pumpkin seeds that we saved from last year. Just allowing them to dry out on a piece of kitchen towel, and then when you're ready, putting them into a jar or into a brown envelope to save. So simple. Just make sure obviously that it's an open pollinated and preferably organic variety.
So we're here at our strawberry bed, and what strawberries tend to do is they send out these runners, and then once the runner hits the ground, it starts to sprout again new leaves and new roots. So what you can do with these runners is you can snip them off. This is then a new strawberry plant. It just needs to be planted in a pot. Very simply. And the same on the next one. This has been snipped off, and it's going to send actually another runner. Do the same thing again. So we can plant this in the pot of compost as well. I'll just smolder them in, and you can plant them wherever you want in your garden later in the spring.
So we really encourage you to try seed saving with pretty much most of the plants that we provided here. With your potato, it's going to be great after we harvest the potatoes. If you have enough, you could keep some back for next year. And then also we talked about the rocket earlier on. The only thing we would say is brassicas, so that's everything in the cabbage family, if you remember from the crop rotation video. They pollinate in a different way, so they can cross-pollinate between them. So because we have 3 brassicas in the one bed, I wouldn't recommend saving the seed from your broccoli or your cauliflower or your cabbage, because you don't know what they may have mixed in the pollination. The pollinators would have brought pollen across. So you wouldn't know really what you would get. You could give it a try if you're curious. Do sample with these things. It's really fun exercise to learn.